APEC Summit, an opportunity to improve PNG's economic dialogue. Extracurricular activities in need of support. And PNG Sprint Queen Toya Whistle to lead for Ireland.
This is the National MTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for Saturday's news. Education Secretary Dr. Uke Kombra says extracurricular avenues must be supported for the benefit of accessing proper education. Dr. Kombra says the Education Department is opening its doors as students carry out research and prepare for events like school debates. He made these statements while witnessing the signing of an agreement between Emstret Holdings Limited and the National Education Department in Port Moresby.
Speaking prior to the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding, the Education Secretary says such event like debating is an opportunity students to learn and improve academically. Dr. Kombra says the Education Department will now support Emstret Holdings to extend the debate competition throughout the country.
So there will be actual rollout of this program right down to the provinces and even to some of our rural schools as well under the MOU.
Founder of the school debate competition, Vani Nanda, says with 9 years of running the competition, PNG students have performed beyond expectations, thus putting value to the research and topics of discussions.
It is our dream to work in partnership with Department of Education and go out there to the rest of Papua New Guinea and the schools and have these programs, extracurricular activities in the school, because we believe that these kind of activities will definitely enhance our students and of course our students in class, especially outside of the classroom.
The debate competition will be included in the school calendar in partnership with Education Department and will be extended to high schools, secondary schools and national high schools in the country.
Programs that really will encourage students to come to the forefront and to show their talents and the gifts that they have. And we are very fully supporting the organization or Emstret Limited for these programs that you will be running.
Meanwhile, a team made up of students from schools in the country will be flying to Croatia to represent Papua New Guinea in the World Schools Debate Competition. The team has been preparing during the term to school holiday and are confident of bringing home better results.
We're sure we're going to win that round because we have an upper hand and we're good with the motion and we learned a lot of things.
We're not sure who we're up against or what side we'll be on, so my team and I, both Vibu and Sabina, we've been preparing on both sides, the opposition and the proposition.
We're arguing from our own perspective and point. As a nation that doesn't have this kind of technology yet, we'll have the upper hand because we actually know what we're talking about.
We've been doing a lot of researches. We've had past debaters who have been behind us as well to help do researches. They've been there to help us to actually look at their arguments, whether it is strong, the case lines we have to set. So it's been a very, very hectic 2 weeks for us. And
Emstret Holdings also announced the introduction of Spelling Bee and Poetry Slam for grades 3 to 8. Jacob Howard Jr., National MTV News.
A 19-year-old man was charged for grievous bodily harm after he hit an 8-year-old girl with his bicycle in Lorengau. The accused, Isaiah Maramoma from Salame village in Manus Los Negros LLG, appeared before the Lorengau District Court yesterday. Maramoma is accused of hitting the victim last Friday at Moro Erang Road in Los Negros. The victim is recovering from a broken tooth and swollen lip while the accused is in police custody. Manus Provincial Police Commander Chief Inspector David Yapu is urging cyclists to be careful when travelling on their bicycles. A former ANZ employee was arrested for 3 counts of money laundering totalling over 1 million kina. 33-year-old Konia Lohia from Poribada village in the Karukuhiri district was charged by detectives from the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption Directorate this week. Mr. Lohia is believed to have invented a scheme between May 2013 and March 2015 when he falsified and processed debit vouchers through several suspends and credited his own accounts. These allegations show 196 transactions were made over the 2 years. You're with Saturday's News. Stay tuned for more after these messages. Welcome back. A senior analyst with the APEC Secretariat says the hosting of the 2018 Leaders Summit in November will give Papua New Guinea the opportunity to improve its economic dialogue with other APEC member countries. Carol Kuriyama, who was a senior government official in the tourism ministry when his home country, Peru, hosted the Leaders Summit in 2008, says the opportunity gave Peru the chance to improve its economic sector.
Mr. Kuriyama made these comments as the guest speaker during the second APEC series discussions in Port Moresby. He highlighted that when Peru hosted the Leaders Summit in 2008, it increased Peru's trade policy discussions with other APEC member countries, and as a result, Peru started trading with Indonesia. It also advances Peru's bilateral relationships with other countries and gave small to medium entrepreneurs in Peru a chance to expand and make profit.
We have about 3,700 Peruvian SMEs that have been able to start exporting to those markets that I mentioned earlier, thanks to those trade agreements. And this is not just, the benefits is not just about trade agreements. We also signed many bilateral agreements during the APEC Peru host years, both 2008 and 2016.
But Peru is different from Papua New Guinea. The geographical challenges, the opportunities, cost in hosting APEC, and the takeaway lessons will be different in all aspects. Though APEC is aimed at promoting free trade policies amongst member countries, it all comes down to the implementation of these policies.
And in order to achieve those objectives, we have certain goals. One of the main ones, is to advance prosperity through free and open trade and investment. And for that to happen, so we base a lot of our work on 3 pillars. Number 1, trade and investment liberalization. Number 2, business facilitation. And the last one, last but not least, economic and technical cooperation.
These APEC series discussions are aimed to give Papua New Guineans, stakeholders, and other interested persons a glimpse of the opportunities and challenges the hosting of the APEC Summit in November will bring to Papua New Guinea. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
The Papua New Guinea APEC Senior Officials Meeting Chairman Ivan Pomaliu says the Australian government has greatly assisted Papua New Guinea in preparations towards the hosting of the Leaders Summit in November. Mr. Pomaliu made specific remarks on the assistance of providing leadership in the training of security personnel and the provision of logistics and infrastructure. These preparations go 6 years back to 2012 when PNG decided to host the summit in 2018.
The Australian government's been really good in that respect and has so generously provided the opportunities and supported the various speakers, and Carlos's presence this afternoon is just one of those important opportunities that they've supported. I think most acknowledge that this partnership extends to a number of other policy work, but also in terms of logistics and security, where a whole lot of capacity building, advisory support, including even the opportunity to deploy important high-end hardware for security purposes later on in the year.
3 governments have signed a memorandum of understanding for an undersea cable system in the Pacific. Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, Papua New Guinea Prime Minister Peter O'Neill and Solomon Islands Rick Howenipwala witnessed the signing between the 3 governments in Brisbane recently. The MOA is for support funding for the construction and installation of the Coral Sea Cable. Chief Secretary to Government Isaac Lupari signed the agreement on behalf of the government. Part of the agreement is to improve and enhance the domestic network for Papua New Guinea and Solomon Islands. The second annual Islands Petroleum Colour Run event will be hosted in Port Moresby on the 22nd of July. Since its inauguration in 2017, the event raised 280,000 kina and was given to charity. Islands Petroleum Manager Retail and Key Account Bruce Muller said for 2018, the event will be hosted in 6 different centres, including Port Moresby.
The 6 centres where the Colour Run event will be held includes Kavieng, Alatau, Popondetta, Rabaul, Kimbe and Port Moresby. Hundreds of people are expected to take part in this event.
Yes, last year it was a lot of fun, and last year we had it along the Ella Beach, the new what do you call it, the beachfront road. But because the area is being dug up this year, we're having it here. But the interest was quite high. There were lots of children, there were lots of families, and we look forward to this year being bigger and better, not only in Port Moresby but all of the other locations as well.
The event, similar to the annual Trukai Fun Run, it involves a walk starting from the Sejongai Stadium.
Each of the locations choose their own charity, to which all of the funds raised within that location goes to. In Port Moresby this year, we have chosen to support the Foursquare Kaugere Medical Clinic. All of the funds that we will raise in Port Moresby will go to support that clinic. They are building an extension for the women's and children's clinic, and this money we raise will be to assist them to building that.
Bruce says funds raised in other centres will also be donated to selected charities in the area.
And along the route will be 5 different colour stations, and as you go through each of the colour stations you get splashed with colour, and that's why it's called the Colour Run. We encourage the families to come along because it'll be a fun time. We just walk, get coloured, come back here and have some fun where there will be a bit of entertainment and some food stalls as well. So we encourage everyone to come over.
Godwin Eki, National EMTV News.
The Australian High Commission in Port Moresby is hosting a special 2-week program that concludes next week Thursday in celebration of the National Aborigines and Islanders Day Observance Committee, or NIDOC Week. The program began this week with a ceremony at the High Commission to raise the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags alongside the Australian flag. This year, 2 exceptional Indigenous Australian women have been invited to participate. Stephanie Harvey, CEO of the Indigenous Community Volunteers, and rising star in the music industry, Emily Waramara. NIDOC Week first emerged in the 1920s when Aboriginal groups sought to increase awareness on the status and treatment of Indigenous Australians. This year's theme, Because of Her, We Can, celebrates the important role that women have and continue to play as active and significant role models at all levels of society. Trevor Magay has been reappointed as acting provincial administrator for the Oro provincial government. Governor Gary Jufa said this follows the suspension of Sam Vegogo as provincial administrator on allegations of misconduct and maladministration. Mr. Vegogo was suspended on the 22nd of June 2018 by the Oro Provincial Executive Council after failing to respond to 18 counts of misconduct in office. Magay's appointment will now extend for another 3 months until a substantive appointment is made. Mr. Magay was Deputy Provincial Administrator, Corporate Services prior to his appointments. You're with Saturday's News. Stay tuned for more stories coming up after the break. Welcome back. Longtime string band The Hornets of Assisi from the Oro province performed this afternoon at Lae City Garden whilst in town for a recording. The Hornets of Assisi, Iroro Nataba and Buna Riverside did not let the audience down with their live string band music. String band lovers in Lae were given a treat this afternoon at the Lae City Garden Club. They came to watch the Hornets of Assisi, an old-time string band that has been around for more than 20 years. String band music is more popular with PNG's older generation, and this afternoon a few youngsters joined in to watch some of the country's long-time musicians. The Hornets of Assisi shared the stage with other string bands, the Eroro Nataba and the Buna Riverside. They are currently in lay recording at the Console Production Studios. NCD Governor Powes Parkop's campaign to clean up Port Moresby before the APEC Summit progresses by the week. The NCD Governor says while he has done his part in building the city, it is now incumbent on city residents to be more responsible with their litter and reducing law and order problems.
In the lead-up to APEC, major developments have taken place in the capital city, including the rehabilitation of existing roads and infrastructure. During the week, the NCD Governor launched two major projects, the Independence Boulevard Precinct and Stage 2 of the Ella Beach Precinct.
I'm doing my part, the government is doing its part in terms of infrastructure and services. We are going to absolutely improve them, and we are on the way to, improving them, as you all can see. But it's also incumbent on our people to do their part.
But the pressing concern now is litter, and more abundantly plastic waste and betel-nut spittle, all over the city and fast creeping onto the shores of the newly built APEC house down in Ella Beach.
250 plus all this big rubbish bag, and it was full of plastic. So we have a brand new beach. It might be as good as Waikiki or even better, but we have a big problem with plastic.
That's right.
People are still dumping plastic.
Both government and non-government organizations, JICA, SEPA, World Vision and NCDC have stepped up their game in regular cleanup campaigns across the city, and most recently, NCDC's cleanup project in Baroko as a pilot site. Governor Parkop has, however, expressed great disappointment in a lack of collaboration from many city residents.
Also incumbent on our people to do their part, and on our people the simple things that I expect them to do is this: stop chewing and spitting here and there like stupids. That's one. 2, littering. We got to change and respect our city and respect ourselves and stop littering.
The governor says he has a bigger vision for a cleaner, safer and plastic-free city, starting at the City Hall itself.
I'm starting with plastic bag. I've made a declaration already at the board, at the City Hall. I've given them 1 month. Nobody coming to the City Hall with a plastic bottle or plastic bag. And then we'll escalate to markets. And then we will start taking on the private sector. And we have to manage the plastic and all the pollution coming from the sea as well. It doesn't come from the sea. They are not living creatures. It comes from us.
Melissa Gaviro, National EMTV News.
Turning overseas, in Pakistan, as the country's general election inches closer, so does the violence surrounding it. At least 128 people have died in a suicide attack targeting the convoy of political candidates.
Targeting the convoy of a political candidate, it is Pakistan's deadliest terror strike of the year, and the third this week to target political campaigners. Just 12 days before voters go to the polls, a high-stakes election has become more violent. Meanwhile, further north, police deployed in large numbers as protesters marched in defiance of city orders. Supporters of Pakistan's ousted Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who returned with his daughter in a high-stakes gamble to rouse their struggling party.
Pakistan is at a decisive juncture, and I have done what is in my power and what was in my power. I know that I was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and I am to be directly taken to jail. I want to tell Pakistanis that I have been doing this for you. I am making this sacrifice for your future generations.
Sharif and his daughter had been sentenced in absentia on corruption charges last week in a case related to the 2016 Panama Papers. Once the pair touched down in Lahore, they were apprehended quickly on charges he denies and his supporters lambast as politically motivated.
Let them do whatever police and their bullies want to do. We are here to face it. We will not turn back.
Sharif's return could shake up a fast-approaching election. His brother leads their ruling party, which is fighting for survival, particularly against their most formidable challenger and arch-rival, cricket legend Imran Khan. Khan has campaigned hard on populist promises to end persistent corruption in Pakistan, a message that has resonated with some after Sharif's ousting last year. But this election has been marred by accusations that Pakistan's powerful military is working to skew the contest in Khan's favor, something the 65-year-old opposition leader rejects outright.
Public is demanding accountability of corrupt leaders of political parties. Now, each time there is an attempt to hold them accountable, they all get together and start saying it's anti-democratic. And in this case, they are saying it's people rigging.
But Sharif's supporters are not the only ones claiming foul play ahead of the election. The party of slain former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto similarly criticized what they called pre-poll rigging when a criminal case against its co-chairman and Bhutto's husband was reopened. At the party's helm is Bhutto's 29-year-old son, who is campaigning for the first time despite the violent end to his mother's political career. More than a decade has passed since his mother's death. Tragically, political violence still plaguing Pakistan's elections.
A new unit for New Zealand's most dangerous men was opened at an Auckland prison. The new facility has a purpose-built mental health facility and a sensory garden, a first in New Zealand.
This is New Zealand's only specialist maximum security prison, built 50 years ago. Today, its $300 million replacement was officially opened.
The prisoner we deal with today is a much hardened prisoner than what it would have been 20 to 30 years ago. Many people don't respect authority, they don't even respect themselves.
That means secure covered walkways and security tailored to different risk levels. This is a dry cell with no toilet. A prisoner concealing drugs inside his body will be held here until he uses this bathroom. The entire facility is single-storey because escorting prisoners on stairs is highly dangerous, and there's more space for officers to regain control of a situation.
The new cells are roughly 30% bigger than the old ones, and unlike the old facility, they have their own shower, their own toilet, and their own window through which prisoners get a glimpse of green.
There's light, you can stand on the grass, you can stand in the sun. You could do none of those things at the old facility.
Because what's also changed in 50 years is inmates' mental health. 90% have a lifetime diagnosis of mental health or substance abuse issues.
So more and more prisoners are coming through the gates with mental issues, mental health issues, ranging from depression all the way up to, anything really, psychopathy issues.
So the new prison has 68 mental health beds and a sensory garden to provide a place of calm. There are plants with different textures and smells, thyme and spearmint.
The biggest difference will be the decency and the humanity aspect.
There are also exercise yards and facilities to teach inmates new skills. All Measures Corrections hope will give the men who end up behind the wire some chance of rebuilding their life.
A former soldier who supplied guns to a man who went on to kill has been sentenced to home detention. Michael Hayes left firearms at the home of his friend Quinn Patterson.
Michael Hayes spent half his life in Southeast Asia as a landmine disposal expert helping others. But in the dock today, the court heard of his serious transgressions on returning from duty to New Zealand.
The offender has demonstrated what can be described as a total disregard for the restrictions on the access and use of firearms here in New Zealand.
Hayes left 6 guns at his friend Quinn Patterson's rental home after visiting the property to do some target practice.
You decided just to leave them with him, even though you knew he was not a fit and proper person to have guns.
Hayes also allowed Patterson to use his gun licence number so he could bid for weapons on Trade Me. Patterson, who never had a gun licence, would eventually go on to kill Wendy Campbell Rogers and her daughter Natanya Campbell. Patterson shot them dead when they knocked at his door asking to install some smoke alarms. Among the guns Hayes left at Patterson's place were 3 military-style weapons, including a modified Chinese AK-47 like this, which Hayes was not licensed to have. One gun had a magazine capable of firing 100 rounds.
The way you modified those 3 firearms, there could be only one purpose apart from target shooting, and that is to kill people.
However, importantly, the police could not prove that the gun used to kill Wendy Campbell Rogers and Natanya Campbell was in fact one of Hayes' weapons. The court heard Patterson had acquired other guns independent of Hayes, as well as a number of combat-related items.
Tactical knives, hunting knives, tactical glasses, surveillance camera equipment.
Contractor Jeff Pipe was with Wendy and Natanya that day, and despite being shot, he managed to escape.
12 months home detention, it's not a biggie, is it?
He says the sentence sends the wrong message.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I was very disappointed, I suppose.
And why is that? You thought Hayes should have been jailed?
So I think that for what he did, yes. Yeah, you know, he was supplying weapons that required an ECAT licence.
Hayes no longer has possession of any guns, nor will he be allowed them in the future.
Now, fur baby parents are parents too. That's the motto at a Kiwi company offering days off for people who own pets. It's a pet-friendly policy that's been growing attraction overseas and has now reached New Zealand.
Meet Flossie, 2 years old, Sydney silky toy poodle, and camera shy.
So not happy about it.
An unfortunate trait for a dog that is now the poster pooch for porternity.
It's similar to maternity or paternity leave. It's just a dog or a cat.
Oh yeah, you heard correctly.
The most important thing to us is our staff members, and the most important thing to them are their pets.
So, Air Sorted, the company that manages Airbnbs, now offers an extra week's paid leave to anyone with a new arrival of the fluffy description.
It's hard to get a new animal and then have to head off to work the next day. So having that little bit of time to let them settle in, it just seems like a no-brainer to us.
It turns out, just like with babies, the first week is crucial for fur babies too.
If they're not stressed and they're feeling comfortable and secure, they're less likely to get sick or cause you other problems.
At Air Sorted, Flossie and David Bache are the first to benefit.
Getting a new dog shouldn't, really affect your work. You shouldn't have to be forced to take your own leave or anything.
And the pet-friendly policy has got his petless colleagues pondering.
It makes me want to get a dog. I've definitely actually started thinking about it just because I can.
And get this, David doesn't even own Flossie. He's just the dog sitter. So, what counts as a pet?
I had a friend who had a pet rabbit and he used to walk it.
Well, that's up to the boss.
Was it just dogs? I'm saying all, but maybe not a fish or...
Yeah.
So a firm no to fish, but a Flossie-sized precedent that might just see Peter from accounts get Peter Rabbit across the line.
Well, usually when you hear the words police video and going viral, there's violence involved. But these latest ones burning up social media are anything but.
The history of Texas law enforcement doesn't include much soft rock.
I can't stop this feeling.
Old school soul or club music. And there's almost certainly none of this. But at a time when viral police videos tend to mean controversy, officers in Texas have created a very different social media sensation.
And isn't it ironic? Don't you think?
Racking up millions of views with a local lip sync battle that's gone national.
We're just like everybody else, but with a different type of job that nobody else gets to see.
Bexar County Sheriff Alexander Mena kicked off the challenge last month with this simple video. never expecting it would lead to full-scale production. In the past month, dozens of police departments from coast to coast have answered the Lone Star State, including officers in Kentucky, California, and Norfolk, Virginia. This rendition of Uptown Funk by Bruno Mars has more than 30 million views.
Don't believe me, just watch. I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me.
Officers from Owasso, Oklahoma posted this Wayne's World spoof. And the Dallas Police Department went country. But ultimately, it's the message that matters. Behind every badge, there's a person, probably not so different from you.
And turning back home, MTV's Vocal Fusion continues their leg of the journey in Mount Hagen. 5 lucky contestants walked away today with golden tickets. The last audition will be held at the National Football Stadium here in Port Moresby.
There's pictures of you and I on the walls around me, the way that it was.
MTV's Vocal Fusion is here in Mount Hagen City. Over 70 contestants came for audition this morning. Judges Olfo and Nexus says Mount Hagen has contestants with strong vocals, but they need to work hard on their confidences.
It's really put us in a position that we're beginning to understand, like, okay, people appreciate the show for like a whole lot of different reasons, apart from just like coming and trying the vocal talent. It's people want to be seen, having that visual presence all around the country and stuff like that. So it's brought on a new dimension to my own personal understanding about the show and stuff like that. So kudos to everybody that has participated. It's been awesome.
Our Vocal Fusion crew were in Ley and Millen Bay the last 2 weekends for auditions. Port Moresby's audition will be held at the National Football Stadium next weekend. The one-day audition today in Mount Hagen started at 9 a.m. and ended at 4 p.m. In the last Vocal Fusion in 2017, the duet from Mount Hagen audition, Sarah and Raylinda Mura, were the first runner-up. They took home 20,000 kina.
Talent-wise, we've seen some really, really good vocalists that have come through and auditioned. Most are shy, that's one thing we've noticed, and I think most are holding back, but I think if they can, it's probably the fact that we have cameras and a panel of judges sitting here which is affecting their nerves, but I think all in all they've done pretty well, and hopefully they can be the lucky ones who receive the 5 golden tickets.
This year's Vocal Fusion is set to be bigger and better with more raw talents on stage. Vasinata Yama, National MTV News, Mount Hagen.
True Guy Sports is next. Don't go away.
True Guy Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Pacific Sprint Queen Toya Whistle will line up with some of the world's best at the Morton Games in Dublin on July 16th and 19th. Whistle, who has been training in Goroka's National Sporting Institute, says her preparation has progressed from the last international race. US-based agent Ian Weekly has been assigned the task of providing Whistle with international competitions that venture into professionalism as an extended pathway for future PNG elites. The event is expected to give a competition stimulus outside of the Pacific, given Whistle more exposure to prepare her for the 2020 Olympic competition.
And just doing the long stuff, and I ran 11:60, so now I'm doing more speed work, so I'm looking forward for going overseas in Ireland for Grand Prix, so I might running a good time down there.
CEO of ICTSI South Pacific Ted Mutia says backing PNG Palais was a move to not get anything in return but to boost and promote women in rugby. He says supporting the women gives them the opportunity to represent PNG at a highest level.
Ted says women in rugby should also be given equal opportunity to represent PNG at a highest level.
In these sorts of sponsorships, it is all about giving opportunities and elevating the sport, women's sport, giving them equal opportunity to represent the country, PNG at the global stage. What is the return? I think the return is whatever they can derive for PNG, make the country proud.
He says with backing from ICTSI, promoting women's rugby in the country should also be looked into.
I think it's a tremendous opportunity really to back women's rugby, and the team has done fantastically well. We are in the World Cup, Rugby Sevens World Cup, and there's not too many countries at this level that have the male and female teams representing in the World Cup.
He says they are delighted to be part of the journey with ICTSI Palais to this year's Rugby World Cup 2018 in San Francisco.
The World Rugby Program insists that every country union must have a very well organized women's program. Women's sport anywhere in the world generally, I would say, probably neglected, is a poor relation compared to the male version. So there's no reason we should not step up and give these wonderful ladies an opportunity to represent their country at the highest level. So we are delighted to be part of that program.
Godwin Eki, National, MTV Sports.
The MBB Marlins have earned a spot in the semi-finals after winning the first washout match in the NCD Rugby Union's A-grade division. The Marlins will play against the winners of the second washout match between the Royals and the ATW Falcons in the semis next weekend.
This afternoon's match between the MBB Marlins and the Goldie Warriors can be labelled as the do or die. Both teams put on their best performances to be on the winning side, but the Marlins remained dominant right throughout the match, winning the game at full time 19 points to 15. Despite many shortfalls resulting from fouls and missed tackles, the Marlins maintained their defense, denying Warriors the opportunity to put more scores on the board. The Warriors on the other end used long passes and determination as their driving force, but fell short of scoring the much-needed points. The Marlins will take on the winner of the match between the Royals and the ATW Falcons next weekend. Thekla Gunga, National, MTV Sports.
High Performance Sport Director Aaron Alsop says the aim of conducting the talent identification program in the country is basically to identify the next cohort of emerging representatives. He says sports is an area where athletes are replaced by new and upcoming talents and therefore accommodating to have future representatives to attend international events such as the Pacific Games, Commonwealth Games and the Olympic Games.
Targeting the high school students' high-performance talent identification program is used to identify potential talents based on individual characteristics. The program, using 3 different sets of training phase, selected students are taken through different levels of fitness training in order to iron out potential future representatives.
While ever we have one group that are new, that are just coming through the talent identification phase, which is the high schools or come and try days that we run, we find the athletes, then we go through phase 2 where we're actually bringing them in through an induction process. So we put them through a 13-week trial to identify that they're showing the right characteristics of what we need.
Aaron says Talent ID program is very important as national representatives or elite athletes have to stop somewhere to go through a transition phase of retirement. He says this is the only way of recognizing the next generation of athletes.
What we're focused on is obviously that younger cohort of athletes that we're trying to help prepare for the Pacific Games, say in 2023. We know that there's always athletes that go through that transition phase of retirement after a Pacific Games or a major event like the Olympics and Com Games. So we need to look at ways that we're able to support them with what they need through that transition. But what are we doing for the next generation of athlete coming through? So
Aaron is urging national federations to work in partnership with high performance sport to help identify talented athletes in their federations.
We believe that if we can have ongoing partnerships with the national federations, that we'll be able to get squads ready for years to come. And having that emerging talent group underneath the national squad, starting to prepare them to get ready for international competition is going to be really important.
Godwin Eki, National, MTV Sports.
Trukai Sports continues with more after these messages. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To tennis overseas, Michael Venus is reaping the rewards of doubling down in his tennis career. The Kiwi #1 and partner Robin Klaasen are into the men's final at Wimbledon. And push singles aside, Venus is on the verge of Grand Slam title in consecutive seasons.
On the brink of history.
Oh, super rally.
A year after clinching his first Grand Slam doubles title at Roland Garros, Michael Venus is one win away from doing it all again at the famed All England club.
This is the one Grand Slam you kind of look at the most when you're growing up, or you hear about the most, is Wimbledon.
Venus pocketed nearly $500,000 for winning the French Open last year. He'll take home a similar amount with a win at Wimbledon. Proof doubles is more than a viable option.
The fact that he's honed his craft to the extent that he's now one of the very best in the sport at that craft, I think it's an incredible achievement.
This morning's result is one Venus was confident he was closing in on.
We kept trusting what we were doing and the process, and it seems to be paying off right now.
With Artem Sitak also making the quarterfinals of the doubles and Marcus Daniel making his way back from injury, it gives Tennis NZ a welcome headache ahead of the Tokyo Olympics.
We're fortunate that we've got a really tough problem on our hands now, with three of them vying for two spots.
Venus will share centre court with Serena Williams on Sunday morning. Williams continuing her emphatic return from having her first baby.
I remember I couldn't even walk to my mailbox, so it's definitely not normal for me to be in a Wimbledon final. So.
Williams a win away from a record equalling 24th Grand Slam.
Great hustle from Williams.
While this is familiar territory for Williams, history now awaits Venus.
Now, every World Cup seems to bring a new animal with the uncanny ability to predict games and outcomes. Have a look at this.
Well, 2018 is no different. If you haven't already, meet Newton, the parrot, football oracle. Here's how Newton reveals his wisdom to us. He nudges that mini football to make a prediction. And he, Newton, is picking France to win against Croatia. Now, that should not ruffle feathers at Newton's home in a Paris zoo. Minor disclaimer, however, Newton has a spotty track record. It got a lot of the early games wrong. However, it has been mostly right since the quarter-finals. So sorry about that. Suspense over. France wins the World Cup per Newton the parrot.
And that ends Trukai Sports. Up next, the weather details for the next 24 hours.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecast in the southern region. Light rain in Port Moresby, fine and cloudy in Daru and Kerema, and cloudy with some showers in Alotau and Popondetta. In the Momasa region, cloudy in Wau, cloudy periods in Lae, cloudy with some showers in Madang and rain showers in Wewak and Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, showers in Lorengau, cloudy with some showers in Kavieng, Kokopo and Rabaul, and cloudy with rain in Kimbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, cloudy with some showers all across the region in Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg.
weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that's been the news, sports and weather for this Saturday. Thank you for your company and good night.